Hi there. Welcome back to Kari's Confessions, a nonprofit exec tells all. I'm Kari Anderson, principal with Incite Consulting. I spent 25 years in the nonprofit sector in leadership roles with 7 organizations. Now, I provide coaching and consulting services to ensure that nonprofits like yours have the structure, systems, and practices to do your best work. Wherever I go, I continue to hear that nonprofit executives need a space to gather. This might be it. We need a space to gather to receive tools, feedback, and advice that encourages you to stay the course. Doesn't seem to matter if you're a village of 182 or a metropolis of millions. Nonprofit work is both gratifying and lonely. I'm here to make sure that you have a chance to breathe, laugh, smirk, get excited again about the work that you do. And it's important. So today's topic is evaluation techniques, how to capture data that matters most for you to truly evaluate your success. So evaluation data and data collection is a really big and somewhat overwhelming topic in the nonprofit sector. I sure know that when I was in the field, we were so great about ideation and vision and doing and adding. We rarely stopped to pause to collect data to ensure that we were actually doing the right work to move our mission forward. There's a lot of information out there. It varies about what's most important to capture for grant reporting and funders. And there's sure now a lot of really pricey software that can capture data and spit out reports for what reasons, right? So some of these things can certainly make things easier, but it's not always necessary. And it's a big challenge if you're a small and mighty nonprofit with potentially limited financial resources. So today, I want to make sure we cover 3 things. 1, why gathering data and evaluating success is relevant and important to your success. 2, how to determine what you should be tracking and maybe what you shouldn't be tracking at your particular organization. And 3, evaluation tools that you can use right now that are not expensive in order for you to start capturing this data. So let's dig into this. Today, we're going to talk about how we evaluate success and measure outcomes. The topic's important because you should be constantly striving to achieve your mission in the most efficient and effective ways. So takeaway number 1, here's why the whole data gathering and evaluation piece is so important. Capturing data and evaluating program success gives you great talking points with donors. I was working with a board yesterday, and their struggle has always been, what do I do with a donor? How do I start the conversation? What am I supposed to be talking about? If you've got data, it's an easy conversation piece to be able to share what your organization is doing, why it's important, and how it's impacting the community that you serve. Research shows that sharing impact is a really powerful way to build trust with donors, especially if you're marrying data with an organizational story. Evaluating success helps you avoid mission drift. It keeps you focused towards your goals and anticipated outcomes. Gathering data allows you to pivot and troubleshoot if things are off track, which happens sometimes. That certainly allows you to save money, time, and other resources. So many funders require data points in grant reporting. And I would say now, as we're seeing kind of a downturn in individual funding as well, having data that supports what you say you're doing when donors are making decisions, whether they are giving to you or not giving to you this year, is a really important differentiating factor. Data and data collection certainly allows you to increase efficiencies. And the other piece that I have to make sure that you understand from a board of directors perspective, one of their requirements is making sure that they are evaluating your programs and services as a part of their overall imperative for oversight and risk management. This is a big piece of how we receive our nonprofit tax status. There's a check and balance system, and the board has to have information in order to make their decisions about what's right for the organization, not subjectively, but with objective information from a risk management and oversight perspective. One of the most challenging pieces about evaluation and data collection for me has always been knowing where to start. I see a lot of organizations try to track everything, and in doing so, they really don't track anything accurately or effectively. So takeaway number 2, let's determine what you should be tracking. If you've got a team, right, the team might be the board. If you're the only staff person, it might be a very small team that you have. Maybe you're a larger organization and have a senior leadership team. The idea is that you're setting goals for the organization as a team. You set them collectively and use the goals to help you set SMART goals. SMART goals, right? Specific, measurable, achievable, relational, and time realistic and time bound. And that's critically important, especially for small shops, because you've got to use that in order to keep you focused and not get carried away. Start with maybe 2 to 3 goals with outcomes that actually can be tracked, and you're not making up data points in order to satisfy a funder. It's important for you when you're setting goals organizationally to set KPIs, right? Key performance indicators. I had some pushback a couple weeks ago from an organization that said, well, KPIs aren't important anymore. You can't measure the work that you're doing, and it feels punitive, and it feels like an old colonialized system. And I will argue that you being able to set very specific indicators that indicate success, whether that is people in program, whether that is meals served, whether that is funds raised, is a really important objective benchmark as to how you're doing organizationally. KPIs are how we run businesses, and it's important for you to decide organizationally what the right KPIs are for you. It's really important for you to involve staff in the goal setting and indicator setting process, because then there's ownership and accountability. Even if those staff are unpaid, they may be key volunteers that you have that are shelter operations individuals, or maybe they're delivering Meals on Wheels. Maybe they're out doing some of your reforestation efforts. But whomever you're choosing to consider staff, paid or unpaid, they really should be involved in the setting of goals so that they can be part of the evaluation process. Your goals inform what's the most important piece to track, right? So we always start kind of on the back and work forward. Set your goals first, then it's easier to be able to start tracking in terms of evaluation and data. I would encourage you to make sure that you're not just setting overarching organizational goals. There's sub-goals for each of your areas of operations. That could look like programming, fundraising, administrative, communication, marketing, etc. So takeaway number 3 today. Now that you've determined what you're going to track, here are some specific and relatively inexpensive evaluation tools you can use. For sure, surveys, program evaluation, client satisfaction, donor surveys. There are really easy and effective online tools, whether you want to use SurveyMonkey or not. I mean, that's certainly mine of choice. It makes it easy for me as a sole proprietor. You might have some great Google Analytics documents or other pieces of software that are incorporated with your database that you can use. But survey often, right? Use that data that comes in to be able to make changes and pivot should you need to. Tracking numbers and participants. It still somewhat stuns me, the amount of organizations that put all of this work into a special event, fundraising activity, a program, but we're not tracking who all shows up in terms of how many you're serving, how many you're reaching, how many you're attending. And a secondary piece to that is we're not getting their contact information. How possibly can we be communicating with them about their experience in your program, their experience with you as a donor or funder, or what their communication preferences are if we're actually not capturing that contact information? Certainly, I'd mentioned there's existing software that hopefully you have. Most donor software programs, we call them CRMs, constituent relationship management software systems, they have the opportunity and ability to generate reports that measure donor retention rates, average gift size, and so many other relevant statistics. Volunteer engagement, how many volunteers are participating, what volunteers prefer which roles. So dig into what you have before you go and choose to purchase something else. So as we wrap up today's episode, here's a reminder, right, as to the homework. First of all, have the conversation about why gathering data and evaluating success is relevant and important in your organization, and determine who's responsible for what in terms of overall data collection and evaluation metrics for you. Set some goals. Number 2, right, set some goals and determine what you should be tracking before you track it. And 3, determine which tools are the most important for you to use based on what data subset you're trying to collect. Start small, right? Small and mighty. If we can do a couple of these right your first year, if you're not currently using evaluation and data collection, start small, and then you can build on that success. Make sure to follow me on your favorite streaming platforms, including YouTube, Spotify, and Apple. And for additional resources, follow me on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. You can also check out my website at inciteconsultinggroup.com, and that is EICITE.com. Thanks for checking in this week. Have a great one.